doesn't understand bahasa, otherwise I will switch to English. Anybody who prefers to, okay, no problem. We'll conduct the session in Bahasa. Sorry, in English. All right, so the objective of the webinar today, we want to give everybody an idea about this tool called NotebookLM Enterprise. I think most of you have already tried this out. Recently, in partnership with Ministry of Higher Education, Google has actually invested in 128,000 licenses of the enterprise version of NotebookLM. So the objective of today's session is to help you all understand what you can do with NotebookLM Enterprise compared to the free version that you may have been using before, and how do you get your hands on the licenses in case you have not already been assigned a license today. So with me in the call, I have Puan Tema from Awantec who will be helping out with any questions or issues related to your license activation. Okay, so let's start. NotebookLM, as if any of you don't know, NotebookLM is basically a grounded AI tool which gives you AI answers to your prompts strictly based on the sources you have uploaded. So, like what you see here, when you start using NotebookLM, the first step is always to upload your own sources, whether it's your lecturer slide decks, your textbooks, your personal notes, and so on. What you typically do when you get started is upload all of these into NotebookLM. And then when you go ahead and ask questions like what is the concept of economics, for example, the answer always comes from the sources you've uploaded. It doesn't take any answers from the internet. Now, why this is important is because as university students, your course, your grading, your assessment is all done based on a fixed set of references, a fixed set of textbooks, and maybe literatures, research papers, and so on. While AI is free to use for everyone, if you are going to go to a free AI tool and ask a question relevant to your course, you will definitely get the answer, but it may not be aligned with what your university has done to curate the course for its students, including yourself. So naturally, then NotebookLM becomes an extension of your university life, what your lecturers have shared with you. But what is being done differently is now you have a so-called a lecturer available 24/7 that can actually answer your questions that you have, whether it's during the weekends, whether it's at night, whether it's during public holidays, and so on. The other things you can do with NotebookLM is you can ask it to generate video overviews or audio overviews, mind maps, and so on. I'll touch more about these features later, but they basically elevate the learning experience that you as students have today. So you can move beyond prompting simple questions or complex questions into NotebookLM. Yeah, you can move beyond all of those and have a more interactive way of learning as students. So NotebookLM Enterprise, the key difference, or for those of you who are listening to this for the first time, the types of sources that are allowed in NotebookLM Enterprise is actually much more extensive than the free version. So in addition to uploading websites, Google Docs, Google Slides, PDFs, or even YouTube links, you can also directly add Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, and Microsoft Excel files to your notebook. Now, this is a big boost for students because we understand that sometimes, whether it's you or your lecturers, they may be using files in Microsoft extension. So now there's no need to convert these to PDFs for it to be ingested into NotebookLM. You can very easily, very quickly take whatever files you have existingly and drop it into NotebookLM, and then you can start prompting away. There is no need to make any kind of conversion. The other things you can do is you can also take pictures of your own handwritten notes or pictures of any slide that you've seen at an event, for example. All of those pictures can also be added as sources. So now this opens up the avenue for many types of use cases. So for example, if you have your own handwritten notes uploaded into NotebookLM, and when you add your textbook, for example, you can ask NotebookLM to critique or evaluate your handwritten notes to assess it from a degree of completeness, whether it's detailed enough or whether there's anything you may have missed out, for example. So the whole process of learning doesn't just become asking questions and getting answers anymore. It's also to help all of you validate your understanding, identify gaps, if any, and basically improve your performance as a student in your universities. Now, the difference here, so NotebookLM Enterprise and the free NotebookLM works identically, but the main difference is the enterprise version comes with security features. Now, security here refers to how your data is safeguarded. Now, let's say if you are a student who's currently researching, let's say, a hydrogen engine to power cars in the future so that we don't need fuel or even EV cars, right? Let's say your research on hydrogen engine is something very new and it's not yet known worldwide. You have a special technique, special method, something that resembles your own intellectual property or your university's property. Now, when you use these research sources or your questions into free AI tools, every free AI tool out there, they basically take your data and use it for either human reviews or for training their model. So, as students, this is a big risk because you students represent the future of the country. And what we don't need is other organizations around the globe suddenly finding out how to create a hydrogen engine because somebody used the free version of an AI tool and all of their data was actually read through or leaked out to these free AI tools. So it's very important that as you do your undergrad or postgrad work, you are using tools that don't have any form of data collection, data sharing, model training, and so on. So that is something that we directly address using NotebookLM Enterprise. In NotebookLM Enterprise, whatever sources you upload, whatever prompts and responses that are written to you, these are not shared with Google or your university or Ministry of Higher Education in any way. The system is built to preserve the privacy of users, which is you, the students, and you can be assured that any kind of research work you are doing, there's no method where it can actually be shared or leaked into to anyone else. I spoke earlier about grounding, and the importance here of grounding is the fact that we do not want to overwhelm you with information from the internet. So if you were to ask a simple question in ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on, you will notice you get detailed answers. But the reality is these detailed answers may be not as detailed as per what your university requires, or it can be too overwhelming. And even though you do get your answers immediately, it doesn't really align with your course direction and your course content. So now by flipping the tables, by letting you choose which information becomes a source, you are basically having sort of like a compliant or an approved way of learning using AI 24/7 and with all the information in your fingertips. Um, the third box over here talks about how NotebookLM doesn't just allow you to derive information or insights from your documentation, but it's also about how you can convert all those information into something you as a student prefer to learn from. So some of you may be more inclined to visuals, some of you may be more inclined to audio. So NotebookLM actually provides you with all of these different avenues for you to ingest information depending on your personality, depending on your learning style. So if you're not much of a reader, you can always generate a podcast and listen to it. If you like to see things visually, you can always ask NotebookLM to give you answers in table form. You can ask it to even generate, let's say, a video overview, which would be a combination of a slideshow and audio that narrates your content. So all of these, the reason why these exist is because we understand not every student has the same learning style, and we want to cater to different students with different preferences when it comes to learning. Last but not least, NotebookLM is powered by the Gemini model. So Google developed its own model called Gemini. Gemini is both multimodal and multilingual. Multimodal means it can ingest not just text information from your PDF, but also images, audios, videos, and so on. So this is directly reflected when we talk about adding sources, because you're free to add audio files, images, and even YouTube videos as a source for your notebook LM. Multilingual is something very, very important. Those of you who are international students or you prefer to learn in your native language, whether it is Bahasa, Mandarin, or Tamil, or Cantonese, all of these settings can actually be enabled in Notebook LM, and I'll show you later. The good part about this is it doesn't matter what language your source materials are in. So let's say you have many sources in English, some maybe in French or German, but you prefer to actually converse with Notebook LM using your own mother tongue or native language. So that's one of the key things about Notebook LM, where it actually lets you um, dictate or choose which language you prefer to speak to Notebook LM with. So if your sources is in a different language, you are talking to it in your native language, it all comes together seamlessly because the Gemini models we use are multilingual. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the free version, you would know that you can only upload up to 50 sources. The enterprise version today will give you 300 sources per notebook for a maximum of 500 notebooks per student. So this is a very generous allocation. In fact, for those of you who have more than 100 sources in a notebook, please share with us how you are using Notebook LM. We are very curious to learn more from you and see how this has been helpful for you. Um, the other thing is, with 50 sources, it's probably sufficient for you to come up with, let's say, a short essay. But when we think about reports, theses, final year projects, naturally the number of sources you require will increase. So that being said, NotebookLM Enterprise is more for undergrads, postgrad students who simply deal with much more intense documentations and sources compared to, let's say, a school student, for example. And with, yeah, there was a typo here, it should be 300 sources. With 300 sources, coming up with your FYP or thesis becomes much more easier because you can prompt Notebook LM Enterprise to be very specific in terms of what you want it to output for your FYP or for your thesis, and it would automatically scan through all of your sources and pick the most relevant content from these sources to help you come up with this information. Now, if it's not research you're doing, even if it's studying, self-learning, you can add sources which you feel which have been approved by a university, it's being used by a university for your course, or even if it's something you personally find that is explaining a particular concept to you very clearly, all of these can actually be added. So if I can share something for a main takeaway from today's session is, don't be shy to add more sources. In fact, as many as you can, as long as it's relevant to the topic which you are wanting to learn more about, it will actually be very, very useful for you. Earlier I mentioned there's no need to do conversion to PDFs. So being able to natively upload these Microsoft extensions are basically going to save you a lot of time. You don't have to worry about standardizing the format across your file. And for me personally, the most important point will be how NotebookLM Enterprise actually protects your intellectual property. So no training of data, whether it's your sources, your prompts, the responses. And by default, sharing of notebooks is a bit unique and special for NotebookLM Enterprise, where you can't actually share notebooks to any user outside the 128,000 list of users that have been granted the license. So the purpose of this is very simple, because if we allow you to share your notebooks with anybody outside your domain, outside the Ministry of Higher Education domain, there is a risk that your intellectual property can be leaked out. And this is basically a joint approach with Mohi, where we help to safeguard the information, the knowledge that you're working on, ensuring that information is contained within universities or within the country. And the last point is about institutional continuity. So of course, a lot of you are involved in group assignments. Sometimes you have group assignments with senior or final year students, and maybe you're in your first or second year, right? So what happens if sometimes somebody in your group has left the university, right? Or maybe this person has uh, graduated. What happens to the work that this student has done if that work hasn't been shared with anyone? So to address this, when notebooks are shared with a group of students, even though one person doesn't have access to it, everybody else who has access to the shared notebook can actually continue the work that's being done. So a simple way to look at it is, if you're working on a final year project and your juniors or your next batch of students are going to continue working on it, your lecturer or your professor can basically have access to this notebook and make sure that there is some degree of continuity when you leave to graduate, and or if you're a new student coming in, you can still follow through or follow up with the work that has already been done before. So this addresses a very important point today in universities, where it's very difficult to have continuity once students leave, or even when once professors leave. So by having this kind of like a stateful database where your work is actually being kept for you, this will actually help you to make sure that there's no risk of your work being forgotten or not being picked up on. So in a nutshell, what does NotebookLM Enterprise give you? Compared to the free version, or if you're not familiar with the free version, this is basically the key takeaways. First thing is you can have way more sources for you to upload. There is zero conversion friction, so you can drag and drop your sources as it is without doing any kind of conversion. And there's 100% data privacy. Nothing is used to train Gemini models. Nothing is being shared with external parties. Nothing is being reviewed by Google, by your lecturers, by the Ministry of Higher Education. The only way your work is actually being shared or visible to other people is if you explicitly choose to share your notebook. And even when you share your notebook, uh, people can only see the sources that you've uploaded. They cannot see the prompts that you have actually generated or keyed in the past. Okay, yeah. So this slide basically summarizes what I just said. So because NotebookLM Enterprise is an enterprise product, it is not a free consumer product. There are different data privacy commitments from Google. And so it's very important that you understand the difference here of these 6 points. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch screens to a live version of NotebookLM Enterprise. What I would like to run through with all of you today before I do that is how to access NotebookLM Enterprise. Those of you who are familiar and have already tried using NotebookLM, you would know that it's very easy. Just go to notebooklm.google.com. However, the enterprise version is a bit different, and today the objective is to make sure, regardless if you can access it today, regardless if you have a license today or not, this is something that all of you need to be aware on how it's going to be accessed. So first things first, you will need to basically access this website. It's called siswa.ai. So I'm going to switch my tab over here. This is siswa.ai, siswa.ai. There is a very handy box over here, which lets you check and verify whether you have a license assigned to you, because license assignment is done at a university level. So if you click this box, it will actually lead you to this this page over here where you can key in your student email address. So be very careful. Make sure that you're using your student email address and not your personal Gmail address, right? And coming back to here, once you've already sorted out your license, it may not happen today for those of you who don't have your license, and that's fine. The key takeaway from today's session is how you're going to use NotebookLM Enterprise. So this is where you can come to get more updates from us on new tips and tricks, and what you can do with NotebookLM, some ideas on how to get started. But the key thing is this black button or this dark gray button over here. This shows you how you can access the enterprise version of NotebookLM. So again, like I mentioned earlier, this is how you access NotebookLM Enterprise. It's not via notebooklm.google.com because that leads you to the free version, right? So you have to go over here and click this button. That would actually redirect you to the enterprise version of NotebookLM. Now, some of you may be getting this error, and this is completely fine. This just means that the license has not been assigned to you. In that case, you can follow the steps over here. Let me just go back here. If you're getting the error, you just need to check your status and then fill up a form so that a license can be assigned to you. This won't be instantaneous. After you submitted your request, our team will need to take some time to assign the license to you. So if that is already done, good job. Now we can focus on enabling you on how to use NotebookLM Enterprise once you have been assigned a license, right? So if you go to NotebookLM, or if you're already there and you see something like this, you have a featured notebook at the top over here, and then you also have at the top right beside the settings button something that says Ultra or Pro or Plus. uh, that means you are not on the enterprise version of NotebookLM. Okay. If you're on the enterprise version, it would say welcome to NotebookLM Enterprise, and this box over here would say Enterprise instead of Ultra, Pro, or Plus. So why is it important here? Because if you're using any other version other than the enterprise version, we cannot guarantee the data privacy as per what I was talking about earlier. So it's very important that you're using the enterprise version. And make sure some of you may have more than one Google account. The university account that will be provided to you to access NotebookLM Enterprise will be a Google account. So if your university today is actually Microsoft, using Microsoft, uh, you need to make sure that you get your Google email address from your university, because that's what you will use to log into NotebookLM Enterprise. And once you have that Google email address, make sure that you are not using the your personal email address, because if you're using your personal email address, you're not going to be able to access NotebookLM Enterprise. You also make sure it's not at Gmail or something like that. Make sure it is actually going to be your university Google email address. So to recap, make sure you see NotebookLM Enterprise, not anything else. Don't use your personal Gmail. And if you followed the instructions correctly, you will actually arrive at this window. This is actually the proper NotebookLM Enterprise window, which is what we are covering today, right? So don't forget to bookmark siswa.ai, because this is how you will be accessing the NotebookLM Enterprise for all of you. And this QR code, which basically links back to it's also available in siswa.ai, but this QR code has tips and tricks or examples of prompts that you can use to elevate your learning experience. So there is a whole collection of sample prompts over here, which you can use and refine based on your requirements, based on your use cases. So definitely go to this page and bookmark it, because once you start using NotebookLM Enterprise, you will need to uh, it will be good to have some guidance or examples on how to elevate your experience, right? Okay, before we jump to the quiz, let's run through the live demo. And again, I see some questions of people not being able to access. So just keep in mind that you just need to submit your student email address. Our team will need some time to provision the license for you. Once it's been provisioned, when you go to siswa.ai and access Notebook LM, you wouldn't get that error. You would land straight on this homepage. So this is what Notebook LM looks like. I already have a few notebooks over here, but let's start with the fresh notebook for today's session. And the very first step involves you uploading your sources. And as you can see, it's already defined here what are the types of files that are supported. You have a generous limit of 300 sources. This is for one single notebook, up to a maximum of 500 notebook. And if you already have some files, you can go ahead and get started and choose files to upload. Before I do that, if any of you are not on the enterprise version of NotebookLM, then you can just follow along. But all of you, whoever that has access to NotebookLM Enterprise, you can follow me and what I'm doing. But for the rest of you, you can take notes, and once you get your license, you can follow the steps. So the other options, I mean, apart from uploading your sources directly, you have the option to discover sources. So I usually use this when I'm doing demos like today, because I want to show you how to use NotebookLM. Usually you will use your own sources that you are going to upload. But this is an easy way in case you want to get sources from the internet. Right. So let's say you are an economics student. So what you can do is you can just key in a keyword, you can key in the topic of your research and then click submit. And what happens is it will actually discover all of the sources on the internet related to the topic that you are asking or posting about. So this will take some time, but what it's doing is, and this is the only time NotebookLM connects to the internet. So other than that, it will not actually go to the internet for anything, because all the answers comes from your sources. But now, since we want to add new sources, this is what's going to happen. So what's going to happen is then once it has discovered sources, you can actually go through and review the sources that have been provided here, and you can pick and choose which sources you want to add. The way this is meant to be used is meant to complement your main sources, not you shouldn't solely rely on this. But of course, for the purpose of the demo today, we will actually be using discover sources because I don't have any sources on economics that I can add. And while waiting for it to index, and that's what it means when you see all of these spinning circles, it means it's actually indexing or analyzing the content of all these websites. Let me show you the other things that you can do. First and foremost is, of course, the language option, right? So by default, the language will follow your Google account, your Google profile. In my case, it's English, but you actually have the ability to choose any one of these languages that you see here. And bear in mind, these are languages which you will use to, which NotebookLM will respond to you with, not the language that your sources are. So regardless which language your sources are in, it doesn't matter, because you basically can just pick a language override here. And once you've picked it, then every interaction with NotebookLM will be in this language, right? So let's leave it to English by default. And once all of my content has been indexed, you will see that I will receive a summary of all of my 10 sources over here. Okay, so since I guess some of these are actually very detailed or very long text, that's why it's taking some time. And sometimes you might run across an error like what you see over here. So over here, you will see that you're getting an error invalid URL. Most of the time, this happens because the website which you've added a source from doesn't allow AI tools to scrape content off its website. So in that case, as you can see, this is actually a PDF file. Rather than adding the website directly, you can just download the PDF and add it directly to NotebookLM. Because some websites have protections where they don't allow AI tools to read their content, right? So you might come across some of these websites. In that case, you can just save the page as a PDF or something like that and add it back to NotebookLM. So over here on the languages part, let's say if I were to change this to Bahasa, to Malay, what will happen is, like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter what language my sources are in. Once I've changed the language over here to Bahasa and I do a refresh, the content over here will basically be refreshed to match my language. So this section here is called the notebook guide. It gives you a summary of all your sources. So following the language setting that I've set here, any interaction that I do with NotebookLM will basically follow the uh, output language setting that I have chosen, even though my sources can be in English. So again, this is a key value because for non-native speakers, non-English native speakers, this is going to be a game changer for all of you. And when you prompt, you can actually prompt, just to show you, you can actually prompt in any language that you want. So let's say macroeconomics and microeconomics. You can see, even though I asked the question in English, which is not the language setting that I've chosen here, it's intelligent enough to actually answer it based on the language setting that I've chosen here. So essentially this becomes the language which you want NotebookLM to respond to you in. So you can see here it answers my question in the language that I asked. And you will notice that there are these little numbers over here. These are actually the references to where NotebookLM got the answers from. So if you click on any one of these numbers, it will show you where this particular response, how it was derived from, because it will go to your source and it will show you which part of the text it used to give the answer. So this is very useful for you to validate, and I advise all of you to always use this functionality to make sure that the content coming is actually accurate as per your sources. So maybe you don't have time to read a whole Wikipedia page, but when you get the answers and you click on the numerical over here, it actually gives you a way to validate the answers that NotebookLM is giving you. And this is a good habit that all of you should have, to always double check and question whether AI is giving you the right answers. And the other things you can do are things like generating mind maps, generating audio overviews, generating video overviews. So all of these, you can go ahead and click them and they will give you for example, mind map gives you a graphic representation of all your sources, how they are connected to each other. Audio overview will basically create a podcast for you, right? So this podcast will be two AI hosts speaking to each other about the topics or of all the sources that you've added here. Most people directly go and just click the audio overview button, but there is an option for you to actually customize the audio overview. So let's say you have 9 sources today, you want to add the 10th source, and you want to create an audio overview that talks about the 10th source in context or in relation with all the other 9 sources that you have already uploaded. So think about it like if you're you've just attended a lecture class today, the lecturer gives you the slide deck copy. You can add it to NotebookLM and ask it to create an audio overview, which talks about the new content from today's class, but also relates or ties back to all of the previous content that you have uploaded. So this becomes a very useful way for you to not just listen to information by the AI host, but also tweak how the AI hosts are going to cover the sources that you've uploaded. And you can also be a bit more granular and you can ask it to focus on specific sources that you've uploaded, specific topics that are scattered across your sources, or to make the podcast for relevant to a certain audience. For example, if it's professors, if it's laymen, if it's children, and so on. So this will impact the way the podcast language and tone will be generated. And you can do the exact same thing for video overview as well. So for starters, you can go ahead and click the buttons to to try it out and understand how it works. But as you start adding more sources, you can basically go and use these extra customization features. So the mind map is ready. This is what the mind map looks like. It actually breaks down all the 9 sources that I've uploaded into these simple mind map. And some of these mind maps, they may have more than one branch, so you can keep expanding. And the key benefit here is now you have a bird's eye view of all your sources. So in this case, it's on economics. I can see how all of these different topics fall under the hierarchy or the flow of content of information. And let's say you're interested in a particular topic. Let's say within time horizons, you want to know what the supply factors have to do with macroeconomics. Clicking this box will automatically generate a prompt for you. And the prompt says, discuss what the sources say about this is the box we just clicked. And this is the box that was above or one level above the box that we chose earlier. And now what happens is you get an explanation about this particular box based on the context of overall. So here you can see the answer is again directly addressing the question over here. And again, this becomes a way for you to prompt. Now, my audio overview and video overview are still loading. So let me go back to an older notebook, which I thought I had generated the audio overview, but okay, it's fine. Let me go over here. Okay, yeah, okay, let's just let it load. And for those of you with questions, you can post it in the chat once we are done with the quiz. We will take some time to address your question. Okay, so it looks like I never generated the overviews before. Yeah, okay, I have it here. And a video overview would look something like this. We just yeah, so there is some audio here. I'm not sure if it's coming through, but this is what a video overview looks like. So again, if you do not provide any context and you just click on video overview, it will give you a very generic view of your sources. However, if you want to customize it, then you can make it more relevant for you, and you can create as many as you want. You can try with different prompts, different instructions here, and you can compare the audio overview. And these also work in the languages that you set over here, output language. So usually if this is in a different language, let's say this is in Bahasa right now, the podcast will also come out in Bahasa and the AI host will actually speak in Bahasa. So today, the podcast language is supported across many languages. I've not tried each language individually, but there's a high chance that any language you pick here and you generate the podcast, it will actually follow the language that you have chosen. So then it becomes, as you can see, it becomes a very versatile and complex but helpful tool that you can use for your studies. And when it comes to sharing notebooks, like I mentioned earlier, sharing notebooks is you can't share it with any Gmail address. It has to be shared with somebody who also has a license. This is a way for us to contain and control your intellectual property. And when you share, you have 2 options. Do you want to share full notebook or do you want to share chat only? Now, sharing with chat only means that they can only see this particular window and they can ask questions like whatever they want to ask. And this is all they can get. So they basically have a one-way interaction with your sources, and they cannot see other things like what are your sources that you uploaded. They cannot generate things like video view, audio view, and so on. So this is a good way if let's say you want to share something with somebody for review, with your peers, with your seniors, or even your professors. I guess if it's with your professors, you can share the whole notebook, but again, for some reason you don't want to. If you share chat only, this is what it looks like for them. this is the view that they get. It's a minimized view. It's not very complex, not very verbose, but it's just enough for them to prompt your sources. Whereas if you share the full notebook view, then this is exactly what they see, right? They can see the stuff that you have generated in the past year, like your mind maps, and they can also go ahead and generate their own one. And something I haven't spoken about are these other features over here, like briefing documents, study guides, FAQs, timeline, and so on. So all of these things are also very helpful when it comes to you studying. So to show you how it works, let me go back to an older notebook, similar topic, economics. But when I generated the study guide, this is what it looks like. A study guide basically gives you some quiz questions, and it gives you some practice questions for you to practice with, along with the answers. And then it also gives you essay questions, which you can use to test your understanding, right? So essay questions, of course, there are no answers for essay questions. What you can do is you can ask NotebookLM to evaluate your essay. So what you can do is you copy the question and you paste it over here in the chat, and then you paste your essay. So you can just paste the entire essay here, and then you can ask, can you evaluate this for me? So it will give you a holistic evaluation in terms of your content, your language, whether you went detailed enough, whether there's anything you missed. And all of this basically becomes something that you do within NotebookLM. And you can do this alone without having to reach out to your lecturers. Of course, if you want your lecturers to review, that's also possible, that's fine. But this just gives you a way to do this at your own free time. And other than that, study guide also gives you glossaries, which highlights main core components or core words that you need to know about, and a description of all these words. And I think there is another section at the bottom. Yeah, okay, that's about it for study guide. And when you go to FAQ, FAQ basically is like the name implies, it just creates frequently asked questions. It gives you common answers to common questions. And there are a few over here. So you can see uh, yeah, so it provides very detailed answers to your question. And the keynote here is these answers are all coming from your sources. So for any of you wondering how accurate, how correct it is only up to the level of how much information is available in your sources. Let's say some information is missing, which you expected it to appear over here. The reason for that will be because it's not within your sources. So that's why it's the true power of NotebookLM is when you have more sources available in your notebook, which will enable it to have access to more information for you to come up with the best answer. So when on the question of accuracy, accuracy depends on your sources. If it's in the source, it will definitely appear in NotebookLM. And the other thing apart from FAQ, the last thing I want to show you is also timeline. So timeline for me is pretty interesting because uh, from your sources, it's actually going to give you a detailed timeline, and depending the timeline in which your sources have started from, if in this case it was since the Middle Ages or the 16th and 17th century, it's actually going to start from there. The timeline happens in an ascending order. So you will see it's being arranged from oldest to most recent, all the way up to uh, where your sources stop. And apart from the timeline, there's also something called the cast of characters. It just breaks down key individuals who have been mentioned in your sources. So if you're studying history or if you just want to understand something a bit better, all of these different buttons serve a unique, different purpose, with the purpose of just helping you study better. I guess the last thing I'd like to show for this live demo is this button over here, which says configure notebook. This allows you to personalize how you want NotebookLM to respond to you. So for example, there are some presets over here. If you click and so by default, it's going to say it's best for general purpose research and brainstorming tasks. Whereas if you click analyst, the way the NotebookLM will respond is best for strategy and decision making. Or you can click guide so that when you access your notebook, when you ask question, it comes in the form of a help center. The answers are in the form of a help center. But of course, you can easily customize and you can uh, configure how you want all these outputs to come out. So you can customize the style, for example, respond at a PhD student level. So then it won't prioritize making things easy to understand, but making all the facts appear and making it a much sound explanation. Or you can even do some kind of role playing to assign roles to your persona. Or you can even customize and say things like, use Gen Z accent or slang or whatever, and then it would respond to you that way. Again, I'm not sure how helpful this will be for purposes of learning, but this is something you can try. And you can also choose to keep the responses long or short. So that's about it. So this is basically what you can do, but mostly the key value is going to come depending on how you as a student you consume and understand and prompt information over here in the mobile. And that's why it's very important to um, use the best practices prompt or the sample prompts that I showed earlier. So I'm just going to flash that screen again for those of you who have not taken the QR code, which is this one over here, before we start with the quiz questions. So the quiz questions just to test whether all of you have been listening to me. We don't have prizes, unfortunately, but I think it's going to be a fun exercise. So we'll start with the first quiz. Okay, so ABC, what makes Gemini a multimodal AI model? Is it A, it supports multiple users at once, or because it handles B, handles different types of input, or is it C, because it can translate multiple languages? So what do you think is the most likely answer here? Okay, so I see everybody has picked, okay, mostly everybody has picked D, and that's true. Multimodal here means it does not just rely on text, but any form of sources that you upload, it's going to be able to understand and ingest it. If the question asks what makes Gemini a multilingual AI model, then the answer would be C. It can translate multi-language, but multimodal and multilingual is not the same thing. Okay, time for the second question. Uh, what's one of NotebookLM's most useful features for students? Is it A, it can write original content without references? Or is it B, it can create all of these things? Or is it C, it can find sources across the web? Right. So again, the answer is B as well. I think I saw someone who said B and C. So the most useful feature of NotebookLM is not going to be the fact that you can find sources from across the web. It is one feature of NotebookLM, but finding sources across the web is something that is better off left to you as the student, because you can pick and choose and go through these content and choose what you want. Time for the final question. Which feature provides a podcast style discussion? So, which feature in NotebookLM Enterprise, when you click it, it gives you a podcast style discussion of your content? Okay, everybody picked the correct answer, which is C, audio overview. So that's what the feature is called, audio overview. Don't forget, you can actually customize how the audio overview would work, how the audio overview is going to be presented to you by giving it specific instructions. Okay, so we are at the end of the session. I'm going to leave the screen over here. for you to drop your feedback. And what I'm going to do now, I'll go through the questions in chat or in Q&A. Okay, nobody used Q&A. It's okay. We'll just go to chat. Um, yes, I believe the recording will be provided. Amira, Zati, okay, mostly it's the answers from just now, but I recall there were some questions earlier. Um, so those of you who have questions, you can post it in the chat now, or you can unmute and ask. Up to you. In the meantime, please fill up the feedback, and if you are having issues accessing your license or accessing NotebookLM Enterprise, you can mention that in the form, and our team will basically help to provision the license for you. It will not be instantly. It might be as early as tomorrow. So we request your patience as we try to work together with your university to assign you the license. You can ask your question in chat, or you can, yes, how many documents can we upload? Yeah, so the limit is 300 sources, not just documents. It can be videos, images, and so on. So 300 is the limit. Okay, Syed Amirul, first and foremost, NotebookLM cannot generate images. So if you're referring to things like mind map and infographic, um, if you're not specific in your prompt and you don't specify what you want the image to have, then it can be a very generic image. It might not have all the content that you want. But when we talk about technical accuracy, this is something that you can prompt it. You can say create yeah, no problem. Like you can say create an infographic with so and so details being captured. If you don't give any instructions, it creates what it believes is the most holistic representation of the sources that you have uploaded. So when you create an infographic, try to take the initiative to give prompts to say what kind of infographic is this going to be, what should be in the infographic, what shouldn't be in the infographic. And Mohammed Sabran, please use your university email. Um, claim or activation period. Okay. Tian Long Chu, I would suggest if you already have the license, then it will be the license is basically determined by your university, by your IT department. So please you can liaise with your university. Uh Even if you've not activated it, if you have access and you continue to use it, then it will not be deactivated for you. Because we have students asking for access to license. What we do is if there are other students who are not using it, we will actually take their license and allocate it to students who want to use. So if you already have license, just be sure to use it regularly, frequently. Otherwise, yes, we will actually return the license to other people. Yes, thank you, Tewa, for answering. Okay, Juan, Hazlina, Abdullah, very good question. Can we generate interview transcripts by uploading the audio recording? Does it capture Malay audio? So, from my experience, when you upload an audio file in NotebookLM, it actually does provide you with the transcript. I've not tried with Malay, but I have confidence that it works for Malay as well. So you can upload an audio file, and then you can once it is indexed, once the circle goes away, you can actually see that the transcript has been prepared, and then you can prompt NotebookLM, and it would use that audio recording as the source. Okay, Munira, e-learning, how to prompt for generate learning video. So you most probably are referring to video overview. Um, so video overview is very straightforward. you just click on the button, and if you want to, you can basically, uh, sorry, if you want to, you can customize the instruction to control how the learning video or video view is going to look like. Infographic, if there are wrong spellings, I guess this is your experience from the past, Noraini. Uh, Older versions of NotebookLM, we used earlier versions of our image generation model called Nano Banana, which didn't have something known as character consistency. The newer models will actually spell out everything for you perfectly. Uh, the last question from this person: if I'm no longer a student, can I still use enterprise? Or yeah, I believe it's for active students, but you can check with your university. Uh, Notebook LM outcome be AI detected. So AI detection is a separate topic. We cannot guarantee that it will or will not be detected because AI detection use different algorithms. The key purpose of Notebook LM here is mainly for your personal learning, but if you want to use it to prepare your reports, your thesis, that's fine as long as you are following the correct citation method. So always, if you are uh, always be sure to refer your work. Ahmad Danish, if you want, your university will have a Gmail student account. You just need to reach out to your IT team or your student support team.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How reliable is the translation by the output language? For example, if we upload a document in English with specific scientific or mathematical terms, how accurate if we want the output to be in Malay? How like the translation would it be correct? For example, the term ergodicity in English or rate of convergence. How accurate is the translation?
Yeah. So for those industry specific term, like even like for me, like when I upload something in English and it translates to Malay, the term cloud computing. Earlier versions of Gemini would call it pengkomputeran awan. It directly translates cloud. But newer versions of Gemini, sometimes it would use the word cloud. It will not translate it to Malay because it understands the industry relevance. So this is a case by case. Most of the time, it does a direct translation of your of your terms without considering the original format. So, let's say some of the examples you gave, I don't remember, let's say terms like rate of change, rate of differentiation, those will be directly converted to Bahasa. You can actually specify in the instructions to not to have it to not convert some key terms into the language that you have chosen. So this is something that you need to try yourself depending on your industry. And if you feel that the translation is unnecessary, you can actually go back and tell it to not translate those words. Accuracy wise, it is accurate because it's been trained on a large data set of sources for Bahasa and other language. So it is accurate, but it may not be as accurate as you want it to be. And to address making it accurate as per what you want it to be, you just have to prompt it.
Okay, thank
Uh,
you, sir.
yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was just moving on to the next question. For a slide, Turnitin will detect. I'm not sure. I wouldn't. Turnitin detects things that you haven't provided proper citation. So if you're providing citation, it's fine. For slide, once it's been created, can it be edited? Not really. Right now, you can only download as PDF, but we are introducing additional capabilities where soon you'll be able to edit the slide. Information, is it up to date? So, Siti, Nabila, Balkis, your question. The information will always be based on the sources you've uploaded. If you've uploaded a new source and you ask a new question, then it will try to use the new source if it is relevant. But so yeah, as long as you upload a new source, then you ask the question, it will always refer to those sources. Muhammad Sawa, NotebookLM provides reference as number. Is there a way to make the reference clearer? So I have tried to prompt and ask it to provide citations in, let's say, Harvard or APA citation. Unfortunately, for now, it does not understand that and doesn't know how to do it yet because it recognizes sources by file names. It doesn't see whether it's a textbook, a journal, and so on. So this will be something that you have to do manually once you've already got the output from NotebookLM. Siti Mariam, yes, the changes. Yeah, so if you share a notebook with somebody and they choose to delete or add a new source, it will be reflected in your original version. So to address this, you can duplicate a notebook. You can add the same sources for a new notebook, which you intend to share with other people, so that your original version remains untouched. Maximum number of prompt per day, if I'm not mistaken, is around in the hundreds. This is applied at an account level, so it is based on your username. It is not per notebook or something like that. So I believe this is documented somewhere. Let me open up the website to show you the limits. So these are your limits. Um, how many notebooks, how many sources. Your source cannot be more than 200 MB or more than 500,000 words. If you if you have something that is this big, what it can do is you can split it. If the PDF file is 250 MB, just split 200 MB and 50 MB, then you should be able to upload. There is a generous limit of 500 queries. This is per user per day. So it is across um, all your notebooks and it's tied to you as the user. Yeah, so this is the official documentation for the limits. And this resets every day, every 24 hours. Okay, let me just go back here. Uh, what is the difference between Plus and Enterprise in terms of limit security? So in terms of limits, I think Enterprise and Plus are pretty similar, but in terms of security, Enterprise is more serious when it comes to the sharing outside your domain. So when you use Plus, you will realize you can share with anybody in the world, your notebook. But in Enterprise, it is among those license recipients only. And I explained earlier, the purpose of this is we do not want to have any IP theft or information leakage at any, regardless of any shape or form. Yeah. How accurate? So Kevin's question is how accurate is NotebookLM when answering or handling large amount of sources? Would it get mixed up? So um, this is a good question. So as you have more sources, it will not mix up information. It would just struggle with relevance. If you have 100 sources, they are all talking about the same thing. Um, it automatically picks which one it believes is the most relevant, depending on your prompt. So if your prompt is something basic like what's the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics, it would go across all of those sources and probably pick something from the textbook which has some clearer definition. But if your question was what's the difference between macro and microeconomics in Malaysia, then it would go for sources which talk about micro and macroeconomics in Malaysia. So that's how you will need to elevate your prompting when you have more sources so that you make the best out of the sources that you've uploaded. If you don't mind about leakage, then yes, anything is fine. No Zuhailas, if you want to register, you can scan this feedback form and then provide us your student ID and mention that you need a license, then we will basically uh will take some time, but we will get back to you on the license. Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Devashi. So Deva has shared the registration form. It looks like this. You can fill in your particulars over here and make sure you read this carefully. University email has to be edu. Do not use your personal email. And then you can leave this blank if you don't know who is your AI champion. Choose your university and then type of issue new license request. This is how we'll know that you are going to, this is how we know how to give you the license. Natra Fatin, when you're moving from pro to enterprise, yes, you cannot when you move from Pro to Enterprise, it will be a new environment of Notebook LM. So whatever you have in the free version or Pro version does not get carried over, unfortunately. So I understand that can be quite um, disappointing for some of you. But the reason for that is simple because it's a totally different environment. It has more stricter security controls. That's why there's no direct way to import or migrate notebooks. Uh, yeah, so transferring files, I assume you're referring to sources, Sarwan. Uh, Today, between accounts, we don't support any kind of migration. So if you get a new account, you will have to start from scratch. You will need to upload your sources all over again and start prompting from there. Yeah. Yes, you can't download a notebook and then upload it back to NotebookLM Enterprise. How you would do it is the sources you used in your original notebook, you will have to upload those sources into the new notebook in NotebookLM Enterprise. That's how it works. Okay, so I hope everybody has filled up the feedback form. Those of you who have questions, you can stay on and post your question, either unmute or put it in chat. For the rest of you, thank you very much for joining. I hope you've learned something new here, and we look forward to understanding your experience and progression with Notebook LM Enterprise. And yes, thank you, and have a nice rest of the day, everyone. No, Kevin, it does not evaluate your source. It assumes the sources you have uploaded is going to be the master or the uh, sources that you should use to get the answers from. What it would do is, if there's contradicting information, you can ask it, is there any contradicting information about this topic across my sources? It can help you do that, but it does not have an ability by its own to um, uh, reliably evaluate your source. So if it's outdated information, it will not be able to understand that because it cannot compare with any recent information. But if you have multiple sources and you want to compare multiple sources, yes, you can do that. You just need to prompt. Uh, Nick Muhammad Adnan, no, your admin cannot view your sources you're uploading or the prompts you're asking. All they can see is adoption. How much are you using Notebook LM? And this is important for us because we want to understand if students are actually using Notebook LM. So these are called activity logs. They just show how many sources you've uploaded, how many prompts, how many audio overviews you have generated, but it does not give us the view of what you are prompting. So these are more of usage analytics where we try to understand and see the trend of all students across all universities, how they are using Notebook LM. But we do not have the ability to see the data, the activity, the prompts within Notebook LM. That is personalized to you. Mohammed Sabran, do you mind clarifying what you mean by LR? Is it legal review? No, okay, literature review. Yes, it can. Good is subjective. Good will be depending on how you prompt it. So when you say generate a literature review, you can say things like make sure to include this aspect, these details, make it less than 120 words, and so on and so on. So yes, it can do a good job, but if you can give it a more explicit or detailed prompt, it can do an even better job at that. Yeah. So it's subjective basically. As long as all your literatures have been uploaded as sources, doing a literature review is very straightforward. Okay, Lim Chong Huang, how to solve the hallucination problem and let it describe in detail. So describing in detail, you remember earlier I said you can customize the response length to make it longer, so that will make it more detailed. Hallucination is something that is the least concern in Notebook LM Enterprise because all the answers are only coming from the sources you've uploaded. If you uploaded a bunch of economics textbooks and you ask something about rocket science, for example, or thermodynamics or physics, it would simply say that your sources don't have any information related to these topics. So among all the AI tools you've used, hallucination is going to be the last thing that you will have to worry about because everything is grounded to your sources itself. Iqbal Daniel, there is no expiry for the license. It actually depends on your duration as a student. So if you've already graduated, then your license will be revoked and given to other students. So as long as you're a student you're actively using, it will not expire. Only the notebook LM will be in enter. Okay, I'm not sure what your question is, ABA 1800050, but if you go through siswa.ai, that is the enterprise version of notebook LM, not the free version, right? Not the Plus Pro. If it's enterprise and through siswa.ai, then yes, you will be using the enterprise version. Muhammad Sabran, can NotebookLM synthesize my result and discussion section based on the source? Absolutely. You can upload, let's say, your report or something like that, and then make sure to also upload like textbook, something authoritative that NotebookLM can use as a reference. Because if you just upload your report, there's only one source, it cannot give a good critical opinion unless it can compare it to information in a textbook, in a journal, in a slide deck, and so on. So it can do it, but make sure you have uploaded the right sources. Uh, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I've already answered that. Yes, Gemini won't be in enterprise mode. So when you go to gemini.google.com, that will not be in enterprise mode. Only NotebookLM Enterprise has this security safeguard. So you can still use Gemini for basic things. You can ask questions and so on. But if it's specific to your research work or something unique, your own intellectual property, then it's better to use NotebookLM Enterprise.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ajay, for the presentation just now. We kindly ask you to fill out the feedback form. For our feedback forms with valid attachment, you will receive an e-certificate along with today's presentation slides. With that, our session for today comes to an end. We apologize for any shortcomings on our part and hope to see you again in another session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.